Hey guys, welcome to Small Town Conservative, where we take a radically rational look at what's going on in politics. So today I wanted to take a look at Andrew Yang, who is running for mayor of New York City. You might remember him from when he ran for office on the presidential stage for the Democratic nomination back in 2020. He fizzled out of there pretty quickly, but not without making quite a name for himself. So when I was kind of looking up what happened to Andrew Yang, what did he do after that? That's when I discovered this man is running for mayor. And I'm going to tell you, I think he might win. He has a really good chance of winning. The primaries are in June and he's polling amazingly. So I think we might see a totally unconventional mayor of New York City. But first, let's take a look at where Andrew came from. What's his upbringing? What does he bring to the table? Why is he so popular and all of that? So Andrew Yang comes from a super smart family. His parents are both Taiwanese immigrants, and his dad had a PhD in physics and worked for IBM and General Electric. His mom was a statistician at a university and an artist. Even his brother was a professor. His uncle was a professor. And so, of course, the apple did not fall far from the tree. Andrew Yang was also quite a bright kid. Now, at the age of 12, Andrew Yang scored a 1220 on the SATs, which would get him into a lot of prestigious schools, including Johns Hopkins University, Summers programs, and the Philip Executor Academy, which was a very nice private school to go to. Now, after he graduated high school, he went to Brown University to study political science and then moved on to Columbia Law to study law. Now, after that, he did become a lawyer. He only did it for 5 months and said it was very soul-sucking, which I can believe, and he did not like it at all. He says it was the worst moment of his life, and so he quit after 5 months, and then he started working for a lot of .com companies and startup companies, which is where he says he caught the bug for working in business. Now, he would do that for a while and eventually moved on to a company called Manhattan Prep, which is a test, examination, evaluation, scoring kind of company. He was an executive there after a while. They got bought out by Kaplan, which I think Andrew Yang might have gotten a chunk of the change from that sale. So after that, of course, Andrew Yang, the startup company guru at this point, really wanted to start his own company. So he started Venture for America, which would partner with recruits from universities. So these kids fresh out of college who were really bright and really promising, Andrew Yang and Venture for America would partner with other startup companies in cities that needed a little bit of a revitalization after the 2008 housing crisis. And the idea was these recruits would get experience with a new startup company. These new startup companies would get, fresh minds and really bright kids in their program, and together they would be able to improve the economy in these cities that were just still struggling after the housing crisis and all of that. Now this got a lot of attention. President Obama actually gave Andrew Yang an award for Venture for America, which I thought, wow, it must have been a wildly successful program. What's interesting is Andrew Yang got this award right out the gate before this was even tested or anything like that, which, A for effort, I guess. Venture for America really wanted to create 100,000 jobs by 2025. We're kind of ticking up on that. And unfortunately, Venture for America has only created 1,400 jobs last that I checked. So wildly under the radar of what they were hoping to accomplish. And it sounds like it had lots of great ideas to this program. A lot of people were excited about it, but it just didn't do as well as anyone was hoping for. So after Venture for America, that is when Andrew Yang decides that he's going to run for president. That feels like a quick escalation of things, if you ask me. The most notable idea during his campaign in the presidential race was what he called the freedom dividend. He was pretty obsessed with this plan and basically brought it up wherever he went. The idea here was that every American would receive $1,000 every month from the United States government, and that this would help revitalize the economy. The reason he is a big proponent of this plan is because he fears that robotics and automation are going to destroy the middle and lower class Americans, leaving them without a job or a way to provide for their families.
Andrew Yang joins us tonight. Andrew, thanks very much for coming on. And I meant that with sincerity. I haven't heard anybody in our political conversation describe the threat as clearly and compellingly as you have. Why should we be worried about automation?
Well, if you look at the backdrop, we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Missouri, and those communities have never recovered.
He basically went unnoticed by the people running the debates, the mainstream media, and all of that. But what did get him attention was all of the podcasts that he went on. I mean, he did all of the shows, right? He did Joe Rogan, he did Ben Shapiro, he did Bill Maher, The View. If someone would have him, he would go on their show and share his ideas. And I think this is where a lot of people became really excited about Andrew Yang and this political outsider who they'd never seen before.
Universal basic income. This is what this is all about.
Yes, yeah, that's what my campaign for president is all about.
That's an interesting focus of a campaign.
I think what differentiates him from people who you would consider to be super leftist or woke even, he's not as inflammatory with his language. He's not really interested in criticizing the other side of the aisle, more so championing his own ideas, which got him a lot of respect from basically everyone. I think you saw a lot of unlikely voters, undecided voters, even people from the right saying that they would cross parties to vote for him. With any of the other issues, he's basically as blue as Democrats come. He was really cozying up to the Green New Deal. He mentions it in his policy plan there, and he is kind of right in step with the left as far as climate change, climate control.
I agree with the fundamental vision of the Green New Deal that we should move towards renewable energy sources, and that's not going to happen on its own. Like, the government needs to make a pretty big set of pushes.
He's pro late-term abortion.
So I would be reluctant to have some sort of date cutoff because, again, in my view, it should be up to the woman what to do.
Yeah. So 6 months. A woman has a perfectly viable fetus at 6 months, and you would still give her that choice.
I would.
He's in favor of a lot of regulations and bigger government. He wants massive gun control. I think one of the most interesting things on his presidential website was this idea of tax day. He wanted to change it to Revenue Day and make April 15th a national holiday where we could just all celebrate the fact that the government takes a lot of our money. It says make paying taxes patriotic and fun. And if that doesn't tell you how out of touch Andrew Yang is with how much Americans like to pay taxes, then I don't know what is. It's almost as if he thinks that by slapping a fun name on it and making it sound like a group project, all of the Americans will feel happier. It's no wonder he didn't end up doing very well on the presidential stage, because if you aren't different from the other candidates, then why not go with someone with more political experience?
I think that's like $3.2 trillion a year. How would you do that? Sorry?
He did end up dropping out after the Iowa caucus. So when I consider his pro-choice stance, when I consider the amount of money he feels comfortable spending, when I consider the amount of oversight and regulation that he is excited about, these things to me don't feel like someone who is a moderate. After that, he started Humanity Forward, which would basically put his idea of universal basic income into practice. He found a couple lower income communities in New York and put forward the UBI, the Universal Basic Income, by giving each of those families $1,000 a month. He left Humanity Forward and also turned down an invitation to be part of the Biden administration to throw his hat in the ring for the New York City mayoral race. And he's doing really well there. Now, one of the things that also separates Andrew Yang from the rest is he is a very optimistic person. When you talk with him and when you see him on camera, he's usually very warm and friendly. He's smiling.
Are you ready to address a rat infestation?
I just saw a rat the other day that was very large
every day.
and deceased. Under my administration, we'd get that dead rat off the street ASAP.
And when you hear him speak, he doesn't mention things like doom and gloom like a lot of these other candidates do. New York City has had a hard year. I would venture to say that New York City was hit the hardest from COVID. New York City's economy was devastated. So you can imagine that the New Yorkers are probably a little bit more invested on who's going to become the next mayor, especially because Bill de Blasio seems to be deeply unpopular from every single party. So when I'm looking here now at his page for mayor, and it reminds me a lot of what I saw in the presidential website that he had. It's a lot of all of it. He is really excited to grow and expand. You're going to see a lot of those words when you look at his website. And it begs the question, where is this money coming from? I just don't understand. But what he wants to do is he wants to find 500,000 of New York City's most impoverished people and give them $2,000 a year throughout the year. And this is a $1 billion effort. So that's, again, alluding to his previous big idea of the UBI, the Universal Basic Income. What's interesting about this is he is including undocumented immigrants into this equation. So whether you are a citizen or not, you would be included in the 500,000 people who would receive the UBI if you live in New York City and you are among the most impoverished in the city. When I looked on his website for his mayoral race, which, by the way, his first debate is coming up and the primaries are in June, so they're coming up. I was trying to see if I could nail him down on what exactly his policies would do to address things in the city like the NYPD, the COVID crisis, climate change, all of these issues. And a lot of these policies he hasn't even put up on his website yet. He says they're going to be coming in the following weeks. But if you're someone who is living in a city that is super economically depressed, then you would be interested in how they're going to make this happen. And I don't see a lot of information about that as far as, paying for this goes. Of course, you would raise taxes, I would think, to make all of this happen. And if you're in a city that is super economically depressed and you already have companies fleeing to go to places that have lower taxes for companies, then that would make me nervous as someone who lives in New York City. I think that's something that we're going to see people pin down on him for in the debates. When you look at Andrew Yang's race for mayor, I think a lot of the things that he has going for him is the fact that he's very optimistic, he's super friendly, he's very warm and inviting and likable. I think a lot of the challenges that he has coming his way is the fact that he isn't super proven in anything that he's tried to execute on his own. If you look back on Venture for America and what it originally set out to do versus what it actually did, it makes me nervous to see on his website all these grand, promises that I don't really have any indication that he would be able to deliver. So, but people may be willing to give him a shot. People are not interested in political insiders as much as they used to be. People are more awake to the fact that there's so much corruption in our government that they might be willing to give this thing to someone who is just brand new. For that reason alone, he might win. He's got his primary in June and the general election is later in the fall. But if this is the guy that is put up by the Democrats, I think that a Republican might stand a chance of winning. So will Andrew Yang be an unexpected success story in politics, or is he going to fade into black the same way that his company VFA did? Either way, he's worth looking out for. Let me know down in the comments what you think of Andrew Yang, if he caught your attention during the primary races, and if you were surprised to learn that he could probably be the next mayor of New York. Thanks again for watching. Please consider subscribing to this channel if you would like to see more content like this, and I'll see you guys next time.